Sali ka na, no? Diretso lang. Wala nga eh.
Gusto ng pasok niya, pick up na. Sa
Pick up
number,
pa.
ano?
Number 4.
Pick up na yan.
Pakinig, antay muna natin. Bagay ano, meron na kayo piyesa? Meron na kayo?
May I request everyone to please find their seats and settle down. We're about to start in a few moments.
Natapos nito sa first place na. Lahat. Sa second place huwag na. Dire-diretso lang, first place. Walang balikan. Tuloy-tuloy lang.
Start na. Nandiyan na. Mag-prompt na kayo na mag-start na.
Nagano na po
Oo
sila.
na.
Si magtatawag na.
Sige.
Kuya, sayang thank you.
Acceptable lang.
Ambassador po dito. Ambassador ng United States. Ito. Kasi wala ambassador sa Pudo.
Ano pa?
Ambassador.
Actually, ambassador ang ano.
Ambassador.
Hello.
Bossing yan. Bata pa.
Hindi tayo makakapag-share.
Lumipat na ako.
Ilang po ako ka na ako.
Makakabayan. Attention tayo. Pick up na, pick up. Kasi nakasko. Ano mo ka?
Kala ko, ante muna natin.
Pick up. So, lere.
Pag in-announce mo po, ayan.
Harap pa tayo ng... Kasi bakit nasa amin yung mic? Doon na lang pala eh.
Mainit po dito kaya gusto mo naman siya.
Kasi postor kayo. Sabi niya. Kahit sana chinat na lang. Chinat nila yung program.
Good morning, everyone. May I request everyone to stand up for the arrival of Her Excellency, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United States of America to the Republic of the Philippines, Madam Mary Kay L. Carlson. Please remain standing for the national anthem. witnessing the offering of a wreath from the Pontifical and Royal University of Santo Tomas. The wreath is offered by the Secretary General of the University, Father Louis R. Coronel, OP, EHL. The second wreath is from the Philippine Veterans Bank. From Mr. Miguel Angelo C. Villarreal. The third wreath is from the American Battle Monuments Commission with Mr. Vicente Paulo D. Lim, Director. The next is a wreath from the City of Manila. We have Director Charlie Dungo. We now have a wreath from the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office from its administrator, Yusek Reynaldo B. Mapagu. We now have a wreath from the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. We have the Honorable Regalado Trota Jose Jr., Chairperson. Sige. Now that the wreaths have been offered, let us all offer a few moments of silence as we pay our respect to our comrades who were liberated 80 years ago, as well as to their liberators whose bravery we remember today. Thank you, everyone. We may now all be seated. We are gathered here on this historic day as we commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Santo Tomas Internment Camp. This commemorative event is part of the overall 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Philippines with the theme Liberation's Legacy, Honoring the Past, Shaping the Future. As we gather for this anniversary, let us remember the brave men and women of Santo Tomas Internment Camp, as well as their dauntless warriors who liberated them from captivity. 80 years ago, today, on this very open space, the internees rejoiced as they welcomed their liberators. Their sacrifices have since been cemented in history. The service of their love was entire, whole, and perfect, and the sacrifices never faltered. It stood the test of time. Now we proceed to the second part of our program. We will now hear some messages from our guests of honor. To welcome all of you, may I respectfully invite the Secretary General of this Pontifical University, Reverend Father Louis R. Coronel.
To our beloved students, academic staff, and officials, especially the Department of History of the UST Faculty of Arts and Letters. the Colaico siblings, led by Manuel Colaico Jr., our distinguished guests from various agencies, led by the respective heads and representatives, namely the first Vice President of the Philippines Veterans Bank, Mr. Miguel Angelo C. Villarreal, Director of the American Battle Monuments Commission, Mr. Vicente Paulo D. Lim IV, Administrator of the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, Undersecretary Reynaldo B. Mapago, Head of the Department of Tourism, Culture, and Arts of Manila, also representing the Manila LGU Office of the Mayor, Director Charlie D.J. Dungo, Chairperson of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Honorable Regalado Trota Jose Jr., our esteemed guest of honor and speaker, U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Her Excellency Mary Kay L. Carlson. Dear friends, brothers and sisters, a pleasant good morning. Today we gather on hallowed ground to commemorate a defining moment in history, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Santo Tomas Internment Camp. We stand here not only to remember the past, but also to reflect on its lasting legacy, guided by our theme, Liberation's Legacy, honoring the past, shaping the future. 80 years ago, on February 3, 1945, the gates of this very campus, once a place of captivity, were flung open as liberation arrived. For nearly three years, thousands of civilians endured hardship, uncertainty, and fear within these walls. Yet, even in the face of suffering, their faith never wavered. Their strength, solidarity, and unwavering hope stood as testaments to the indomitable human spirit. On that historic day as well, the UST main building, which is set to mark 100 years since its inauguration in 1927, became the first structure in Manila to be liberated, signaling the beginning of freedom's return. Honoring the past means ensuring that the sacrifices of those who lived and died here are never forgotten. We remember the innocent lives caught in the tide of war and the quiet heroism of those who helped one another survive, and the triumph of freedom that came with liberation. Shaping the future means taking the lessons of history to heart. The story of Santo Tomas reminds us that the pursuit of peace, justice, and human dignity is never ending. And as we reflect on this momentous occasion, may we commit ourselves to building a world where division and conflict are replaced by understanding and reconciliation, where the echoes of history guide us towards a future of compassion. With gratitude and reverence, we welcome you to this commemoration. May this anniversary deepen our appreciation of the past and strengthen our resolve to shape a future worthy of the sacrifices that brought us here today. On behalf of the Rector of the University, the Very Reverend Father Richard G. Ang of the Order of Preachers, welcome to the University of Santo Tomas.
Thank you, Father. A series of messages from our distinguished guests will now be delivered. To formally introduce our noble guests, may I call on Dr. Archie Rezos, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of History of the University of Santo Tomas.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In behalf of the University of Santo Tomas, Faculty of Arts and Letters, Department of History, I would like to welcome all of you to the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Santo Tomas Internment Camp. With this year's theme, Liberation's Legacy, Honoring the Past and Shaping the Future. We are blessed to have two esteemed speakers for today. Our first speaker is Professor Regalado Trota Jose, who has researched and written for more than 30 years on the cultural heritage of Hispanic Philippines. He obtained his Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and Master of Arts in Philippine Studies, both from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. His book titled Simbahan won the National Book Award for the art category in 1992. His other published books and articles deal with the early Philippine books, church bells, 19th century parish priests, ivory sculpture, and Philippine art in Spanish museums. Apart from writing, he has assisted in the setting up of museums, archives, and special exhibitions all over the country. He was the first lay archivist of the 413-year-old University of Santo Tomas in Manila, serving from 2010 to 2021. Early 2024, Professor Jose was elected chairperson of the Board of Commissioners of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Our second speaker, Undersecretary Reynaldo B. Mapago, is presently the administrator of the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, and prior to his current position, he was appointed as the Undersecretary for Civil, Veterans, and Reserve Affairs from 2017 to 2022. He was also the principal executive who advised and assisted the Secretary of National Defense in formulating and implementing objectives and policies on civil, veterans, retirees, public affairs, and AFP Reserve Force development. Undersecretary Mapago also headed the Task Force Balik Kaloob, an interagency task force created to supervise the implementation of the government's reintegration effort through the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or the ECLIP. A graduate of the Philippine Military Academy Class of 1978, Undersecretary Mapago served as the Philippine Army and Armed Forces of the Philippines in both field and staff duties for more than 38 years until his compulsory retirement on October of 2012. To name a few of his notable positions, he was the Vice Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the 52nd Commanding General of the Philippine Army, the Commander of the 10th Infantry Division, Philippine Army, which covered the whole of Davao Region, Davao de Oro, and some of the areas of North Cotabato. Ladies and gentlemen, our notable speakers, Honorable Chairman Regalado Trota Jose, to be followed by Honorable Undersecretary Reynaldo B. Mapago. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Her Excellency Mary Kay L. Carlson, Ambassador Plenipotentiary and Extraordinary of the Embassy of the United States of America. Undersecretary Reynaldo B. Mapago, Department of National Defense, Philippine Veterans Affairs Office. Director Charlie D.J. Dungo, Department of Tourism, Culture and Arts of Manila, City Government of Manila. Vice President Miguel Villarreal, Philippine Veterans Bank. Director Vicente Paulo Lim, the 4th American Battle Monuments Commission. Reverend Father Louis Coronel, Secretary General of the University of Santo Tomas. Good morning po to all. We are gathered here today to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Santo Tomas Internment Camp. A few weeks after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941, American authorities obtained permission from the Dominicans to use the campus of the University of Santo Tomas, Asia's oldest university, as an internment camp upon the imminent arrival of the Japanese army. In the first days of 1942, the first truckload of about 300 civilian internees arrived. Over the next 3 years, over 10,000 men, women, and children, including Americans, British, Dutch, and other nationals, would enter these doors. Let us also remember that within this campus were the Dominican fathers, mostly Spaniards, and Filipino seminarians who continued their studies despite the abnormal times, and also the Archbishop of Manila, Michael O'Doherty. Apart from the Japanese troops, there were also 5 Japanese seminarians. In the beginning of 1945, more and more families began to seek refuge inside the campus as news of the approaching Americans spread. The night of February 3, 1945, was rudely interrupted by the roar of tanks clanking to a halt in front of the gates along España Street, just behind us. The 1st Cavalry Division of the U.S. Army had raced down from Lingayen, Pangasinan, upon orders of General Douglas MacArthur, who feared that the internees would be massacred. After a brief exchange of enemy gunfire, the tanks tore into the gates and proceeded in total blackness to the main building. Cries were heard in the corridors. "American tanks are coming! The Americans are here!" Under the cover of darkness, courageous guerrillas and ordinary civilians had already been aiding the internees, relaying crucial information and smuggling food and medicine into the camp despite the ever-present threat of death. Soldiers raised up the main building to secure the area, especially from snipers. From the rooftop, they saw the black sky turning slowly a deep and livid red by explosions detonated all over the city by the jittery enemy. The next day, February 5, after tense negotiations, the last 65 Japanese soldiers agreed to leave the campus. They left unharmed 221 internees held hostage in the education building, now the UST hospital, which is to my left. On February 6, a Sunday, the American flag was raised over the main building. As Carl Maidans, the life photographer, recalled, "I have never heard 'God Bless America' sung as it was sung that day." As we stand in freedom, let us remember in prayer those who lost their lives 80 years ago, especially Captain Manuel Colayco, whose descendants are here, who was shot when he led the liberation forces through the gates. We keep alive the memory of all that transpired during those fateful years, such as erecting monuments, like restoring or bringing back that one dedicated to Manuel Colayco. I remember it was somewhere over here, and it just disappeared. Maybe we can return it. Preserving the shrapnel marks on the walls of the main building. If you go behind us, you will see the bullet holes on the markers on the walls. And on the door here to my right, there are also marks of the shrapnel. Please do not repair those anymore. And conserving the rich trove of artifacts and documents, including menus, kept in both the archives and museum of this university, and reaching out to the remaining internees and their families and other veterans. May we never forget the lessons of the past by thanking and blessing those who fell in order that we may live. And may the courage of those who fought and endured continue to guide us in our life. Long live peace with justice. Thank you.
sir. Squatin ko po.
Sige, thank you. Her Excellency Mary Kay Carlson, the Ambassador of the United States to the Philippines, Father Louis R. Coronel, the Secretary General of the University of Santo Tomas, Chairperson Regalado Trota Jose Jr., of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Director Charlie D.J. Dungo of the City of Manila, Mr. Vicente Lim IV of the American Battle Monuments Commission, Mr. Mike Villarreal, Vice President, Philippine Veterans Bank, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today we honor a remarkable moment in our nation's history, the liberation of over 4,000 civilian internees at the University of Santo Tomas on February 3, 1945. For 3 long years, men, women, and children, many of them Americans, endured hunger, disease, and fear under Japanese internment. Yet, even in captivity, they remained resilient, holding on to the hope despite the immense hardship. That hope turned into freedom when the M4 Sherman tank named Battling Basic of the United States 8th Cavalry barreled its way through the front gates of UST, guided by 2 Filipino guerrillas, Captain Manuel Colayco and Lieutenant Diosdado Goitinco. Their selfless heroism helped liberate not only soldiers, but also hundreds of children, young lives that had been confined within the walls of war. Their mission was not without sacrifice. Captain Colayco, a survivor of the Bataan Death March and a UST faculty member, sustained fatal wounds during the operation and passed away a week later. His bravery reminds us of the extraordinary price of freedom. As we commemorate this event, we reaffirm our commitment to honoring the legacy of our heroes, not just through remembrance, but through action. And my office, the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, remains steadfast in its mission to serve our veterans and their families with the highest standards of integrity, professionalism, and service. We are dedicated to ensuring that the sacrifices of our heroes are met with respect and care they truly deserve, whether through pension benefits, medical assistance, or recognition of their valor. Philippine Veterans Affairs Office will always stand by for those who fought for our nation's freedom. Today, we stand together at the University of Santo Tomas. The university is not just a historic site of symbolizing our nation's struggle and liberation, but a beacon of education and nation building. On a personal note, I cannot help but reminisce my own days in this university as an engineering student and an ROTC cadet in 1973 before I joined the Philippine Military Academy in 1974. And we look forward to continuously working with the university, not only in terms of commemoration activities, but also in other fields towards perpetuating the heroic legacy of our veterans, like historical research, preservation of documents, and publication of books. All of us have an important role to play in ensuring that their heroism remain alive through generations. Let us carry forward their legacy with pride, gratitude, and unwavering commitment to the values they defended by being responsible and peace-loving Filipinos. To our dear veterans, we're forever indebted to the sacrifices you have made for our motherland and the future generation of Filipinos. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Undersecretary. We will now hear a message from Her Excellency, Madame Mary Kay Carlson, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United States of America to the Republic of the Philippines. Now, to formally introduce the Ambassador, may I call on Professor Dr. Melanie D. Turingan, the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Letters of this Pontifical University.
Good morning. Our guest speaker for this momentous event this morning was nominated by President Joe Biden on February 4, 2022 as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Republic of the Philippines. She was confirmed by the Senate on May 5, 2022. She is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service with the rank of Minister Counselor. She previously served as the Deputy Chief of Mission and charged the affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Prior to her assignment to Argentina, she served as Deputy Chief of Mission and charged the affair in New Delhi, India, and held the position of Principal Deputy Executive Secretary for the Secretary of State in Washington, D.C. A Foreign Service officer since 1985, she has served at U.S. diplomatic missions in China twice, in Ukraine, Hong Kong, Mozambique, Kenya, and the Dominican Republic. Her domestic assignments include Director of the Secretary's Executive Secretariat Staff and Deputy Director of Korean Affairs. A native of Little Rock, Arkansas, our distinguished guest of honor received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Spanish and International Studies from Rhode Colleges in Memphis, Tennessee. She holds 2 master's degrees, first in International Relations from Georgetown University, and second, National Security Studies from the National War College. She is married to retired Foreign Service officer Aubrey Carlson, and they have 2 wonderful daughters. Without further ado, it is my honor to introduce our guest of honor, Her Excellency Mary Kay L. Carlson, Ambassador of the United States to the Philippines.
To my esteemed friends and colleagues here on the dais, and to all of our esteemed guests, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good morning. We gather here today to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the University of Santo Tomas Internment Camp. 80 years ago, on February 3rd, 1945, the combined forces of the U.S. Army and Filipino guerrillas stormed through these gates, bringing an end to the agonizing captivity of thousands of civilians held by the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II. For 3 long years, this university, a beacon of learning and enlightenment, was transformed into a prison. Within these walls, over 4,000 women, men, children, Americans, Filipinos, citizens of other nations endured unimaginable hardship. They faced starvation, disease, and the constant threat of violence. They were separated from their loved ones, their lives disrupted, their spirits tested. We must never forget the suffering endured here, and we must never forget the resilience and the courage demonstrated by the internees. Stories of their experiences are etched into the fabric of this hallowed place, reminders of both the cruelty of war and the enduring strength of the human spirit. I think of people like Elizabeth Vaughn, an American teacher, educator, who meticulously kept a diary throughout her internment. Her words, filled with both despair and unwavering hope, offered a powerful window into the daily struggles and small triumphs of life inside the camp. She wrote of the gnawing hunger, the constant fear, but also of the unwavering camaraderie and the shared determination to survive. Her diary, a precious historical document, reminds us of the importance of bearing witness, of documenting the truth, even in the darkest of times. The liberation of Santo Tomas was profound and recounted in countless memoirs. Imagine the elation, the relief, and the tears of joy as these prisoners, emaciated but not broken, finally tasted freedom again. Imagine the reunions with loved ones, the embrace of family members who had feared the worst. We celebrate those released, but we will never forget the 390 who died while interred in this camp. But the liberation of Santo Tomas was not just the end of a chapter, it was also the beginning of a new one. It was an early moment in what is now the ironclad alliance of the United States and the Philippines, a bond forged in sacrifice and based on a commitment to freedom and democracy. Filipino guerrillas fought alongside American soldiers, risking their lives to liberate their countrymen and their allies. And I was just this past weekend in Cabanatuan to commemorate the Great Raid. It was not just guerrillas and scouts of the Philippines, but everyday citizens who, at great risk to their families, assisted Americans who were incarcerated and who assisted the troops as they came to liberate this country. This shared struggle cemented the deep and lasting friendship between our two nations, a friendship that continues to this very moment. Today, as we commemorate this historic event, we not only remember the past, but we also look to our shared future. We reaffirm our commitment to the values for which brave women and men so many years ago suffered and sacrificed, values of freedom, justice, and human dignity. We pledge to continue working together as partners and allies to build a more peaceful and prosperous world for all. Let us never forget the lessons learned here. Let us always honor the memory of those who suffered and those who were lost. And let us always strive to build a world where such suffering is never again repeated. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. To proceed, may I now call on the Dean and Regent of the Faculty of Arts and Letters to assist the Secretary General in the presentation of tokens to our guests of honor. The token will first be presented to the Veterans Bank. Ambassador? Sorry, to the ambassador, sorry. The token will first be presented to the ambassador. To NHCP. Ay, so, to Tivaw po. Sige, tuloy lang po. Thank you, Dean and Father Regent. We're now going to have a round of group photos before we end the event. May I request the guest of honor to stand up for a photo. May we... may we request the Colayco siblings to proceed to the stage?
Sa baba na lang po, sir.
Sa baba nila. As well as to the other distinguished guests. May I now request the other distinguished guests to join the photo? May we also ask the members of the faculty of the Department of History to join the group photo, as well as to the other university officials present. Department of History, Now we may ask the students to join, the students in attendance, as well as to the members and officers of the History Society. Again, thank you everyone. That concludes the second part of our activity for today. The third part of today's activity will be a celebration of the Holy Eucharist. This will take place at the lobby of the Benaventura Garcia Paredes OP building, and we look forward to meeting each other again in a few moments.